Hello, this is Dr. Pola Rosen, publisher of Education Update, and I am honored to be here today with a member of Parliament in Canada and his son, Mike, Lake, and Jaden. Thank you for being here with me.
Oh, thanks for having us, Jaden.
We're going to be talking high five, way, whoa.
All right, that's enough high fives.
Now, Mike, you are not only a member of Parliament, but you are a special person because you're the parent of an autistic child. Jaden is 16 years old now, and you have certain perspectives and insights to share with other parents and people who have gone down this road. And so we would love to find out from you a few things. Number one, what are some of the things that you've learned about autism? And I know that you had about 36 hours per week of special tutoring and behavior modeling for Jaden. So if you can tell us a little bit about some of those things that you did.
Yeah, well, Jaden was diagnosed at 2.5. We live in Alberta, which is a province in Canada. Probably one of the best jurisdictions in the country to live if you have a child with autism for getting treatment. And back then they were funding about 36 hours a week, that's right. So what that looked like was aides, usually university students, taking 3 or 6 or 9 hours a week kind of thing. We had a team of 5 that rotated, and at the beginning Jaden wouldn't pay attention to anything. So literally it was putting a spoon on the table and saying, "Jaden, give me the spoon," and he would look around like this, anywhere basically in the room except for at the spoon or the person talking to him, and then the aide would grab his hand, put it on top of the spoon, and then put it in their hand and make him hand it over, and then they would give him a treat or something like that to reinforce that was a good thing, and that was how it started.
So what are some of the insights and some of the experiences that you've had that you can share with other parents or maybe even caregivers? I mean, and what are some of the behaviors that you've had to overcome?
Well, there's there's a whole bunch. I mean, first things was trying to get him connected, and I think when you look back at those early days in terms of the therapy and treatment, Jaden, do you remember that? Do you remember working with Sarah and Melinda? Do you remember them and all of the different people, Crystal and Carlos, who would come over and work with you one-on-one? And they would make you hand them things, and they would practice different things with you, and then, do you remember that? And they'd give you rewards, sometimes Smarties and things like that for rewards. Do you remember that? So we would, that connection, the fact that he looks at me and is able to connect and is understanding what I'm saying to a large degree, as long as he understands the concrete things, he understands the people and those things. Those were things he had no connection whatsoever when he was younger. So it's kind of a foundation for him in terms of our relational ability, our ability to kind of relate to each other and his ability to connect. And a lot of people comment that it's a little bit unusual that for people with autism, that Jaden can connect like he can. He may have a lot of challenges in other areas, but one of the real strengths he has is that connectedness. And his pediatrician, she's now passed away, but I think when he was about 10, so about 6 years ago, after about 7.5 years of therapy and then school, and he had very little, about 10 hours a week of therapy while he was in school, she commented that he was a completely different kid because of it.
Well, I think one of the unusual things that I've noticed about Jaden is that he's so affectionate and so kind. And you did mention that he didn't kiss at the beginning. Now he's learned how to actually kiss. Mm-hmm. So how did he go from the non-reactive to the loving and kissing teenager that I see now?
That's an interesting question, because the not kissing was probably similar to the not talking. In a sense that it's probably more of a muscle thing. He actually was still as affectionate. He just didn't know how to kiss like this. Jaden, give me a smooch on the cheek. See, he'll give me a smooch on the cheek. But up until, can I give you one too? up until he was 11.
Can I take one too?
Yeah, you can give her a big smooch on the cheek there.
Oh, I love it.
Up until he was 11,
he
couldn't make the smacking sound, so it was more like an infant kissing, just a touch on the cheek as opposed to a smacking kind of thing. So it was a little bit before that he actually wound up building that sort of connection with us, and I think part of that is due to the intervention. A lot of that is to do with my wife Debbie and just the way we are as a family. We wouldn't let him get away with not connecting. You made him hug, and we made sure that he wasn't allowed to just get in his own space all the time, and we had to get in his space. And parents of kids with autism will know what we're talking about. And some kids respond differently than others, and certainly every kid with autism. You see, Jaden, you meet one person with autism, every child with autism
it's
is
a
different.
spectrum, of
Exactly.
course, a whole range.
But some of the children that have autism have severe temper tantrums, and they go into rages. And some of them need everything in their room or their life to be ordered in a certain way.
Yeah.
How is Jaden?
He's actually, that's not so much an issue for him now. The tantrums were when he was younger, and even now, if he gets frustrated, he'll grind his teeth and he'll go for a little run and squeal pretty loudly. When he was 6, 7, 8 years old, it was a lot more often that would happen. And partly just because we figure because he can't express himself, right? He's frustrated because he can't express what it is that he wants to express, which is hard for us as parents, of course, too. In terms of him needing order and being particular with the way maybe he puts his food on his plate or things like that, that's not as much of an issue for him. Certainly he likes to put things in order, there's no question, but it doesn't completely disrupt everything about his routine if it's not. And again, with some people with autism, that is a very significant feature for them.
So his room does not have to be in a certain way?
No.
So.
No, I mean, he does like to keep things in order, though. And he loves, you know what he loves to do on the positive side, and I think that there would be many other people with autism that would love to organize and put things away. So
Very positive.
If my wife is doing laundry, Jaden loves to help her with the laundry. He loves to, she'll fold things up and give them to Jaden and send him to whatever room it's supposed to go in, and he just races up the stairs with a smile on his face, putting the things where it belongs. So he loves to put things away where they belong.
Right.
So
Terrific.
exactly. You like to do that, don't
That's
you?
a positive thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What about cooking? Jaden, do you like to cook in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Like chocolate chip cookies?
Do you make chocolate chip cookies? Do you like to make chocolate chip cookies in the kitchen?
That's
And
great.
follow the recipe? Hey, do you watch his favorite show in the whole world? He's a cooking show. He loves to watch in Canada. We have a show on CBC called Best Recipes Ever, don't you? You'd love to watch Best Recipes Ever with Katie. Yeah.
What
So
do you
just
like to
watch.
make?
Do you like to make? Do you like to make those? You want to eat those? You're thinking right now.
Take
You're
one.
not thinking make. You're
Take
thinking
one.
eat, aren't you?
They're for you. Chocolate
you
chip
go.
cookies, they're the best. So what is, there's a certain candy that you mentioned that he loves?
I've got some in my pocket right now.
What is that?
Here, Jaden.
What is
So
it?
they're kind of like M&Ms. Actually, maybe I put them up there. You know what? I don't have them in my pocket. We'll have to give you one afterwards. They're Smarties, so they're kind of like
Smarties.
M&Ms. Yeah, they're called
M&Ms.
Smarties.
Okay.
And they're definitely something that is a big motivator for him.
Right.
So I'd like to ask, what are some of the things that Jaden did in school?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, the connections he's made at school, I often say that the connections he has at school are as important for the other kids as they are for Jaden. He's been in a regular classroom all the way through. He's in grade 11 right now. One of the things that is really striking, he was really only focused on the academic stuff at the same level till about grade 4, and then everything was more modified for him because he has real difficulty with abstract things. But one of the things that's so really awesome about the school that he's in right now is that they've included him in musical theater. So last year when he was in grade 10, the students and the teacher themselves decided that they wanted to include Jaden in musical theater. They thought it would be good for him. Of course, these kids put hours and hours and hours of work into these musical theater performances. They did Oliver last year. Yeah, Jaden loves it. And they took special care to find what scenes that he could be in, mostly group scenes and those kind of things.
Okay.
Of course, he's nonverbal, but they even put him in some of the dancing scenes with some choreography and taught him the choreography.
Fabulous.
It's not perfect, and he doesn't catch it every time. But you know what they did? They actually even had students who were specially assigned to be near him, so if he didn't turn, they would help him turn. And if he started to wander to the side of the stage, because sometimes he could wander in those scenes where you're kind of walking around, students would kind of gently grab his arm and it would look like part of the scene, and they would bring him back in. And just what a wonderful experience for Jaden. You can tell as I talk about it, he just loved the experience, right? He loved musical theater, right, Oliver? But it's also a great experience for the kids to learn how to include him. He's in a K-12 school, grade 11, so many of these kids have been with him all along, and they love him, they protect him, they include him, and they invite him to their birthday parties and
That
other
segues
things.
perfectly into my next question.
We have something here in the United States called mainstreaming. Is he mainstreamed or is he in special class?
He's actually in a regular class with a full-time aide with him. So he has a full-time aide. Obviously, every circumstance is different, and every child with autism is unique. But for Jaden, it works to have him in a regular classroom. It works. The school system has always provided a full-time aide for him right from the start, because of course the danger with Jaden is that he might decide he wants to go swimming in the middle of the day. And he knows where swimming pools are, and he knows how to get there, but he's not aware of traffic, right? And those kind of things. So we've always emphasized, there's a need to have someone kind of watching him and helping him with his program, and they've always been fantastic.
The transition period is something that has been of great concern here in the special education community in the United States. What are some of your concerns when Jaden reaches the age of 19? A lot of the kids in this nation are phasing out of services, and parents don't know what to do.
Yeah, well, in Canada, most of those services are provided at the provincial level. My advice to parents is always to advocate, always to go out and talk to your elected officials, but not just to set a meeting and they'll often say, well, I can't take my child with me or my loved one with me because how can I articulate properly what I'm trying to articulate? I always say you've got to take them with you. Sit beside them. If your child is acting like they do every day and causing issues that you deal with every day, you're communicating it better than you could ever communicate it if you're just saying words, right? And people need to see people with autism. People get elected because they want to help people. It doesn't matter what party you're with. That's generally why people get elected. And so when they're educated on what autism is, they're gonna find solutions to the problems. And I would really encourage parents to get out there and have those types of conversations. In Jaden's case, in terms of what we're focused on right now, he's 16 years old. We are focused on where he can contribute. And so for him right now, part of his schooling is his aide takes him to the public library where he works 2 or 3 times a week. And he can sort the books. Yeah, he loves it. He can sort the books. He can scan them in the computer. He can run them out to the shelves and put them in where they belong. But of course there are challenges, and the challenge is that Jaden isn't always aware of other people when he's pushing that cart around, and so he needs someone to kind of watch him. And so we have to try and figure ways to mitigate those things and to be able to include these kids' strengths, these people's strengths, and at the same time deal with some of the challenges that we know exist.
Thank you so much for letting us visit with you. And Jaden, you are wonderful, wonderful. We love you. And if you want to write something for Education Update, that's great.
Say thank you. Give her a high five.
Oh, wow.
A good one. Thanks.
That's a good one. Take another cookie.
All right.